The world knows Pastor Jerry Eze, but what if I told you his mother's hidden past holds the real reason behind his rise to greatness? In this video, we're exposing 5 dark, surprising secrets about Pastor Jerry Eze's mother, and the last secret will give you the highest shock of your life. Brace yourself. This is deep. Don't skip a second. Pastor Jerry Eze is a name that resonates across Africa, especially among those who tune into his daily live broadcast of New Season Prophetic Prayers and Declarations, nsppd. His powerful prayers and prophetic declarations have become a source of strength and comfort to millions of believers worldwide. Known for his fiery spirit and unwavering faith, Pastor Jerry Eze has made a mark that will last for generations. He is one of the most recognized pastors on YouTube, drawing thousands of viewers daily as he leads people in prayer, preaching hope, and declaring blessings over their lives. His passionate teachings and healing prayers have made him a household name, not just in Africa, but across the globe. For many, Pastor Jerry is a beacon of faith, someone whose very presence brings hope and restoration. However, behind this larger-than-life image is a man who has had to navigate his own trials, hardships, and moments of self-doubt. Pastor Jerry Eze's rise to prominence was not a walk in the park. It was shaped by struggle, loss, and a deep, almost indescribable connection to his spiritual calling. Before he became the figure that millions now admire, Pastor Jerry Eze was just a young boy in a small, humble home. Raised by a single mother who had little to offer in terms of material wealth but was rich in faith, Pastor Jerry Eze's journey to greatness began in the most unlikely of places. While others had more resources, more opportunities, and more support, Jerry had the prayers and teachings of a mother who believed in him, even when he didn't fully believe in himself. But it wasn't always easy. Despite his mother's unwavering love, Jerry faced many challenges growing up. His father was absent, and his mother struggled to make ends meet. She worked tirelessly, ensuring that Pastor Jerry Eze could go to school, could have a meal, and, most importantly, could understand the importance of faith. One of the most striking memories of his early life was the way his mother encouraged him to keep going, to keep believing in his potential, even when the world seemed stacked against him. No matter how hard it gets, Pastor Jerry Eze, you are destined for something great, she would tell him over and over again. Keep your faith strong, and you will see the light. Little did he know, those words were not just comforting words from a loving mother, they were the seeds of a prophetic declaration that would shape the trajectory of his life. His mother's belief in him was unwavering, and even when things were tough, she never let him forget his worth. It was in the quiet moments of prayer with his mother, in the early mornings and late nights, that Pastor Jerry Eze's faith began to take root. Those moments would later be the foundation on which he built his entire ministry. But none of that would have been possible if not for the strength and belief of the woman who raised him. However, despite the love and support his mother gave him, there was something missing. Pastor Jerry Eze, like many young people, struggled with doubts. He questioned whether he was truly capable of fulfilling the destiny his mother had set for him. There were moments when he felt lost, unsure of his path, and overwhelmed by the challenges before him. But every time he felt that way, his mother's words echoed in his mind. He wasn't just a young boy with dreams, he was a boy with a purpose. And that purpose, although unclear at times, would soon become his guiding light. Pastor Jerry Eze often speaks of his mother with a sense of deep reverence and love. To him, she wasn't just a mother, she was his spiritual guide, his greatest cheerleader, and his anchor in times of uncertainty. Growing up, Jerry witnessed the struggles his mother faced every single day. They didn't have much, but her unwavering faith filled the gaps where material wealth fell short. His mother was a woman of deep prayer. From a young age, Pastor Jerry Eze would watch her pray fervently, sometimes for hours at a time, her voice echoing through the quiet home. It wasn't just the words she said that impacted him, it was the way she prayed. With conviction, with purpose, and with a heart full of belief that God would answer. Even when life was hard, even when their situation seemed hopeless, Pastor Jerry Eze's mother never wavered. She believed in a God who could change any circumstance, no matter how impossible it seemed. And she instilled that belief in Jerry. One of Pastor Jerry Eze's most cherished memories of his mother was her constant reminders that his life had a purpose. She would often tell him, "You were born for a reason, Pastor Jerry Eze. Your life has a purpose far greater than we can see now. Trust in God, and you'll fulfill it." At the time, Jerry didn't fully understand the weight of her words. He was just a boy, focused on school, on surviving, and on trying to figure out what his life was meant to be. But those words stuck with him. They echoed in his mind during the times when he doubted himself, when he faced obstacles that seemed insurmountable. His mother had a way of making him feel invincible, of making him believe that no matter what happened, he could overcome it. And it wasn't just in the easy moments when life seemed smooth. She was there for him during the hard times too, providing him with wisdom, strength, and most importantly, prayer. As Jerry Eze grew older and entered the ministry, he came to understand that his mother wasn't just raising him to be a good man. She was preparing him for something much bigger. She was shaping him to fulfill a calling that he could never have imagined at the time. And while Jerry often felt inadequate for the task ahead, his mother's belief in him never wavered. Her prayers for him were like seeds planted in fertile soil. Every time she prayed, she was sowing into his future, speaking blessings over his life, and laying the foundation for the man of God he would become. She believed in him even when he couldn't believe in himself. But it wasn't just her faith in him that shaped Pastor Jerry Eze, it was the way she prayed for him. She didn't just ask for blessings or for his life to be easy. Her prayers were filled with prophetic words, declarations of his purpose, and promises from God. One of the most significant moments in Pastor Jerry Eze's life came when he was facing one of his darkest struggles. He had just begun his ministry, and doubts about his calling were overwhelming him. That's when his mother, sensing his inner turmoil, took him by the hand and prayed over him with such power and conviction that it changed everything. "Lord," she prayed, "I declare that this child will not falter. He will fulfill his purpose on this earth. His calling will come to fruition, and he will touch lives in ways we cannot even imagine." In that moment, Jerry felt something shift within him. It wasn't just the love of a mother, it was the prophetic power of a mother's prayer. Her words weren't just comforting, they were a declaration of his future, a promise from God that would shape the course of his life. In a moment of reckoning, Pastor Jerry Eze's spiritual life was put to the test. The call he received would change everything. What do you do when the time comes and your faith falters? The relationship between Pastor Jerry Eze and his mother was one of profound spiritual depth. He had always known her as a woman of prayer, a woman whose faith in God was unshakable. But what Jerry didn't realize until later in life was that her faith wasn't just about words, it was about actions, about showing up for the people you love when they need you the most, and about trusting God even when the circumstances didn't make sense. As Pastor Jerry Eze's ministry began to take off, he found himself caught between the demands of his growing influence and the simple, grounding presence of his mother. Despite his busy schedule, he tried to visit her often, to spend time with her, to thank her for all she had done. But there were times when his ministry consumed him, and he couldn't find the time to show up as much as he should have. Then came the phone call that would change everything. Pastor Jerry Eze remembers the day his mother became ill as though it was just another normal day. He had been wrapped up in work, planning his next sermon and preparing for a broadcast. He had just finished a series of intense prayer sessions when his phone rang. It was his brother, calling from home. "Pastor Jerry Eze, you need to come now." His brother's voice trembled. "Mom's not doing well. She's asking for you." The moment those words hit him, Pastor Jerry Eze's heart dropped. He could tell from the tone in his brother's voice that something was seriously wrong. His mind raced with questions. Was this the moment he had feared? The moment that had been hanging over him for years? The moment when he would lose the person who had always been his strength? He dropped everything and rushed to his mother's side. But what he didn't know was that her time was running out. When Jerry Eze walked into the room, he saw her lying there, weak and frail, but still holding on to the light that had always defined her. She smiled when she saw him, her face lighting up as though seeing her son was the greatest joy she could experience in that moment. But there was something different about this visit. There was an intensity in her eyes that Jerry had never seen before, a sense of urgency in her voice when she asked him to sit by her side. "Jerry Eze," she whispered, "I need to pray for you today. I know you've been the one praying for others, but today, I want to pray for you. I want to pray that you fulfill the purpose God has for your life." It wasn't unusual for his mother to ask him to pray with her. But this time, it felt different. It felt as if she knew something he didn't. Her voice was soft, but there was a power behind it that he couldn't ignore. Jerry held her hands as she started to pray. As she prayed, she spoke of things that were deep and profound, things that Jerry had never heard her say before. She spoke of his future, his ministry, and the world he would impact. "You will fulfill your purpose on this earth, Pastor Jerry Eze. You are meant for great things, and no matter what happens, you will not falter." Tears began to well up in Pastor Jerry Eze's eyes as he listened to his mother's words. Her faith in him was unwavering. She was not only praying for his present but also for his future. She was declaring victory over his life, even though she herself was nearing the end of her own. But after the prayer, something happened that shook Pastor Jerry Eze to his core. His mother, who had always been a pillar of strength, suddenly became weak. Her breathing grew shallow, and it was clear that the end was near. Just hours after that powerful moment of prayer, Jerry received the call that he had been dreading. His mother had passed away. The news hit him like a ton of bricks. The woman who had been his anchor, his guide, the person who had always believed in him even when he couldn't believe in himself, was gone. And he wasn't there to witness her final moments. What happens when you realize that you could have done more? The pain of knowing you weren't enough when someone needed you most can be a haunting experience. Pastor Jerry Eze's regret tore him apart. Can he ever forgive himself? The days after his mother's death were some of the darkest of Pastor Jerry Eze's life. He was surrounded by thousands of people who looked up to him as a spiritual leader, yet within himself, there was an overwhelming sense of emptiness. He was no longer the son who could share his mother's laughter, no longer the boy who would sit at her feet for advice. In the weeks that followed, the grief that Pastor Jerry Eze experienced became unbearable. He found himself in deep reflection, questioning everything. He thought back to the last moments he spent with his mother, wondering if he could have done more, said more, been more. The guilt consumed him. He had been so focused on his ministry, so caught up in the calls, the prayers, and the needs of his growing congregation, that he hadn't fully realized that his time with his mother was slipping away. He had always assumed she would be there, supporting him from the sidelines, praying for him as he moved through life. But now, she was gone, and all he had left were the memories and the haunting realization that he hadn't been there when she needed him most. I should have prayed harder, Jerry often thought to himself in those dark moments. I should have been there with her, praying for her healing. I should have been stronger for her. The pain of not being there in her final moments weighed heavily on him. Every time he closed his eyes, he replayed the last conversation they had. In his mind, he saw himself walking away from her, not knowing that she would soon be gone. He wished he had stayed longer, wished he had said more, wished he had prayed more fervently. But it was too late. The regrets lingered, clouding his thoughts and threatening to overwhelm his purpose. But in the midst of his pain, something changed. Pastor Jerry Eze began to understand something that would alter his perspective on regret. As he sat in his quiet moments, thinking back on his mother's life, he realized that she had never wanted him to live in regret. She had always believed in moving forward, in trusting God even when things didn't make sense. And that's when he remembered her words, the same words she had spoken to him just before her death, "You will fulfill your purpose." Those words echoed in his mind, pulling him out of the pit of self-doubt. Jerry realized that his mother's faith in him had never been based on his perfection. It had always been rooted in her belief that God had a plan for him, one that was bigger than any of his mistakes or regrets. Her belief in his purpose was stronger than any guilt or shame he could carry. As Pastor Jerry Eze thought more about his mother's life, he realized that she had lived with faith and purpose until the very end. She had prayed for him not out of desperation, but out of love and belief in the destiny God had placed in him. That realization was what began to lift the weight of his regret. His regret slowly transformed into resolve. He knew that while he couldn't change the past, he could honor his mother's memory by continuing to fulfill the purpose she had prayed over him. His journey wasn't about being perfect, but about moving forward with faith, knowing that God was still in control. In the months that followed, Pastor Jerry Eze threw himself into his ministry even more passionately, but this time, there was something different. There was a deeper sense of peace within him. He had forgiven himself for the things he couldn't change and learned to let go of the guilt that had weighed him down. He now understood that his mother's prayers weren't just words spoken in the past, they were a legacy that would continue to guide him forward, giving him the strength to overcome every obstacle. As Pastor Jerry Eze sat with the weight of his mother's loss, he realized that while he couldn't change the past, he could honor her memory by continuing to fulfill the purpose she had prayed over him. Her legacy, her faith, and her unwavering belief in him would forever be the foundation of his journey, no matter the trials he would face. The prayers of a mother are powerful beyond measure. Even in death, her words continue to shape and guide her son's path, reminding us all of the extraordinary influence a mother's love and belief can have on someone's life. If this story has touched your heart, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories like this one. We would love to hear your thoughts, so don't forget to comment below and share how this story impacted you.